Several years ago, during the last few years of my father's life, I had one of those life-changing experiences in an emergency room of all places. Papa Ron had been in the hospital a lot in those last few years, and oftentimes it was what people viewed as self-inflicted. And there was a lot of disapproval amongst the nursing staff, which had grown to really trouble me. My dad was a good man, and I never felt like he deserved the kind of treatment he sometimes got, because people had such judgments about his end-of-life decisions. This particular day, I was blown away by a nurse named Bonnie. The previous week, we'd had some difficulties with the nursing staff, but this week, Bonnie she was the model of kindness. She was treating my dad with incredible regard and thoughtfulness. And when she finally knocked him out with whatever narcotic it was that they put him down with, because he was in a lot of pain, she took me aside to catch me up, and I was incredibly thankful and told her so, that she'd been so kind to my dad. I'll never forget, Bonnie looked down at the floor, and I could tell she was embarrassed. And I asked her to tell me what that was about, because I'm that kind of guy. I just got to know what's going on. And she looked me in the eye and she said, you're not going to believe how it is I arrived at this place. So I said, well, tell me. She said, well, my daddy was an alcoholic, bad alcoholic. And for years we worked with him. And one day, Ron, I came home from work and I was tired, and he'd been at it again, and Mama was crying, and there was vomit to clean up. And she said, I just cracked. I went in the closet and I grabbed Daddy's handgun and I put some bullets in it, and I stood there beside the bed looking at him. I said, Daddy, get in the damn car. And he looked at me and he said, honey, what are you doing with my gun? And I said, Daddy, get in the goddamn car. And he said, honey, what are you doing with my gun? And I looked at him, Ron, and I said, Daddy, we are so tired of what you're putting us through. I'm going to drive you out into the desert. I'm going to leave you with this gun, and I hope to God you just blow your brains out, because we can't stand it anymore. Bonnie started crying just a little bit at that point, and she looked real closely in my eyes, and she said, it was the most awful, the most awful behavior ever. But Ron, Daddy got sober that day. And so the empathy I have for your dad and for you and all your family doesn't come out of some virtue. It comes out of my own broken behavior, my own clarity about just how hard this can be, and how it can change us in the most profound ways. And I started crying, and Bonnie and I actually hugged. It was that day that I realized that her words were so true for me and for so many of us. So often we don't come to our good behavior out of some sense of goodness. Instead, life breaks our hearts wide open, and the result can be this magnificent possibility. And oftentimes we don't tell the story behind it, that behind some of these beautiful things is often a very ugly story. And even calling it ugly does it injustice. You see, what Bonnie did that day, the gift she gave my dad, the gift she gave me and my family, was a gift that came out of her own darkness. And thank God she did that work. I will never forget how she treated my dad. And frankly, that goes forward with me every day, because that's the kind of guy I want to be. Out of darkness, light. Out of ugliness, beauty. It's a magnificent story for all of us to embrace.